Close your eyes for a little while, and let the busy parts of the day grow quiet. Imagine that the air has become softer, carrying only the gentle sound of a slow river moving through the darkness. The stars are bright above a wide land where people have lived close to the water for countless generations. Long before great stories were carved into stone, before names of rulers filled the memories of scribes, ordinary hands were already busy with simple work. Those hands gathered reeds, carried baskets, baked bread, swept dusty floors, and quietly ended each day beneath the same broad sky. The first light has not yet appeared. Night still rests over the villages beside the Nile. The river moves without hurry, flowing just as it did yesterday and as it will tomorrow. The water does not seem to care about the passing years. It simply continues its patient journey through fields, marshes, and quiet places where birds sleep among tall reeds. Most homes remain dark. Mud brick walls still hold a little of the coolness gathered during the night. Families sleep close together on woven mats. Some rest beneath light linen coverings while others simply lie where the air feels coolest. The smell of baked bread from yesterday still lingers inside many homes. Clay jars filled with water wait near the doorway. Sandals rest neatly beside sleeping feet. Somewhere in the darkness, a donkey shifts its weight. A rope creaks softly against a wooden post. A dog lifts its head for only a moment before settling once again. Far away, a bird offers a single quiet call before falling silent. Morning has not arrived, but work will soon begin. Among those preparing for another ordinary day is a man whose work almost no one remembers. He is not a soldier. He is not a priest. He is not a royal builder or an important merchant. He spends much of his life sorting reeds for basket making. His name has long been forgotten. Even during his own lifetime, few people would have thought much about the careful work he performed every day. Yet almost everyone around him depended on baskets in one way or another. Grain traveled inside them. Fresh vegetables rested inside them. Fish, fruit, bread, linen, tools, and clay jars all found their way into woven containers made from reeds gathered beside the river. Before a basket could exist, someone had to prepare every single reed. That work began long before sunrise. The man slowly opens his eyes as cool air still fills the room. For just a few moments, he remains still, listening to the familiar silence around him. Beside him, his family continues sleeping peacefully. One child has rolled partly onto a folded blanket. Another breathes quietly near the wall. His wife sleeps with one arm resting beneath her head. He sits up without making much sound. His knees ache slightly. Yesterday was another long day. Tomorrow will likely feel the same. He reaches for his sandals, brushing away a little dust before slipping them onto tired feet. The leather feels familiar. Years of walking have shaped them perfectly. Outside, the village remains wrapped in blue-gray darkness. A few tiny cooking fires begin to glow as early risers prepare the first meal. Smoke rises slowly into still air. Someone nearby coughs softly before adding another handful of dry reeds to the fire. The smell of wood smoke mixes with damp earth carried from the river. It is a comforting smell. The worker walks quietly toward the water. The path is smooth beneath countless footsteps worn into the ground over many years. He knows every curve without needing to think. Even in near darkness, his feet remember where each stone rests. Other workers appear along the same path. Some carry fishing nets. Others balance empty baskets on their shoulders. A farmer leads two sleepy oxen toward distant fields. Nobody speaks very much. Words seem unnecessary before sunrise. The quiet belongs to everyone. The Nile lies ahead, calm beneath fading stars. Mist hangs low across parts of the water, drifting slowly over the surface before disappearing into the morning air. Reeds grow thick along the edges, their long green stems reaching upward with graceful patience. Tiny drops of water cling to their leaves. The reed sorter pauses for only a moment. He has seen this view thousands of times. Still, it never feels old. The river changes a little every morning. Sometimes it reflects bright stars. Sometimes only clouds. Sometimes nothing at all. Today it reflects a sky waiting patiently for dawn. Nearby, several workers have already begun cutting fresh reeds. Their simple knives move carefully through the thick growth. Long stems fall quietly into shallow boats waiting among the marsh plants. The work is slow. No one rushes. Strong reeds are valuable. Broken reeds become difficult to weave. The cutter studies each plant before slicing near its base. Years of experience have taught him which stems will become sturdy baskets and which will remain too thin, too soft, or too brittle after drying. The reed sorter receives each bundle with careful attention. His work is not difficult in the way heavy stone lifting is difficult. It asks something different. It asks patience. He lays every bundle across smooth ground. One by one, he separates them. Long stems together. Short stems together. Straight reeds in one pile. Curved reeds in another. The thickest pieces for heavy grain baskets. The finer stems for lighter household work. Each movement seems almost peaceful. His hands know what to do before his thoughts arrive. Morning slowly brightens. Golden light begins touching the tops of distant palms. Birds awaken all around the marsh. Their songs remain gentle. Nothing disturbs the calm rhythm of the workers. A small boat glides silently across the river carrying two fishermen. Their nets lie folded beside them. One man rows while the other watches the changing light spread across quiet water. Behind them, ripples fade almost immediately. The reed sorter continues working. He runs each stem between his fingers. Some feel smooth. Others carry tiny rough places where insects have fed. A few show signs of hidden weakness. Those are placed aside. Even the discarded pieces will not go to waste. Some become fuel for cooking fires. Others become bedding for animals. Very little is thrown away. In this land, useful things are respected. The morning grows warmer. Children begin appearing near the water carrying small clay jars. They fill them carefully before returning toward the village. One little boy stops to watch the reed sorter. The worker smiles gently. Without speaking, he hands the child one unusually long reed. The boy studies it with wide eyes before pretending it is a walking stick. Soon he laughs quietly to himself and continues home. Simple moments like this pass unnoticed by history. No scribe records them. No monument remembers them. Yet they fill ordinary lives with quiet kindness. As the sun climbs higher, the cool air slowly disappears. Heat begins settling over the marsh. The smell changes. Morning freshness gives way to warm earth, damp plants, and drying mud. Insects become more active. Dragonflies skim above the water. Tiny frogs disappear beneath floating leaves whenever footsteps approach. The reed sorter wipes sweat from his forehead. Already the day's warmth presses gently against his shoulders. He continues separating stems. Some bundles must dry longer before weaving. Others are ready almost immediately. Experience tells him everything. He rarely measures. His eyes judge length. His fingers judge strength. His ears even notice the faint sound made when two reeds tap together. Healthy reeds produce a different sound from weakened ones. Few people think about such details. He thinks about them every day. Across the village, ovens now bake fresh bread. Warm smells drift across dusty paths. Women knead dough inside shaded courtyards. Children chase each other before being called back to morning chores. Goats wander between low walls searching for bits of green plants. A potter begins turning wet clay into smooth jars. A scribe unrolls fresh papyrus before dipping his brush into dark ink. Life unfolds quietly, one familiar task after another. The reed sorter belongs to this rhythm. His work supports many others. Without good reeds, baskets become weak. Without baskets, grain becomes harder to carry. Without grain, families face difficult days. Every simple task connects gently to another. No work stands completely alone. By mid-morning, several basket makers arrive. They examine the sorted piles with careful eyes. Each prefers slightly different materials. One likes thicker reeds for market baskets. Another prefers flexible stems for finer weaving. They greet the sorter with small nods. There is little need for long conversation. Trust has grown over many years. They know he prepares the reeds well. One older basket maker pauses to test several stems. He bends them slowly. They curve without breaking. He smiles almost invisibly. That quiet expression is enough. Good work rarely needs many words. Bundles are carried into nearby workshops. These are simple places. Mud brick walls provide shade. Open doorways allow moving air. Inside, woven baskets line shelves from floor to ceiling. Some are tiny enough to hold herbs. Others are large enough for harvested grain. The smell inside these workshops is gentle. Dry reeds. Fresh plant fibers. Dust. Warm wood. Sunlight enters through narrow openings, painting soft lines across packed earth floors. Workers sit cross-legged for hours. Their fingers move steadily. Reeds cross over one another. Slow circles become wider. Sides begin rising. Patterns appear naturally. Nothing feels hurried. Outside, the reed sorter prepares another pile. His hands never seem completely clean. Tiny fibers cling to his fingers. Dust settles beneath his nails. Sunlight darkens his skin year after year. The work leaves quiet marks upon him. Not wounds. Not scars. Simply signs of a life spent outdoors beneath the Egyptian sky. Around midday the heat becomes heavy. Even birds grow quieter. The air hardly moves. Shadows shrink beneath trees. Workers seek whatever shade they can find. The reed sorter finally pauses. He drinks cool water from a clay jar. It tastes faintly of earth. The jar has kept it surprisingly cool despite the growing heat. Nearby, someone shares flat bread with onions. Another worker unwraps dried fish from linen cloth. Meals remain simple. Nobody expects luxury. Food gives enough strength to continue. For a little while, conversations drift lazily through the shade. They speak of crops. River levels. A neighbor repairing his roof. A child learning to help in the fields. Someone wonders whether tomorrow may bring cooler winds. No one can know. The sun continues its slow path overhead. Soon the workers rise once more. The reed sorter brushes dust from his knees. Many more bundles still wait. The afternoon stretches ahead with quiet patience. He reaches for another handful of reeds, turning each one gently beneath the warm light as the peaceful rhythm of another ancient day continues without hurry. The afternoon settles gently across the river valley, not with sudden change, but with the slow certainty that every worker has known since childhood. The light grows softer, though the warmth remains. The air seems to stand almost still, as if even the breeze has paused to rest beneath the wide Egyptian sky. The reed sorter lifts another bundle from the ground. The stems are still warm from the sun. Their smooth surfaces carry the faint scent of fresh plants mixed with river water. He turns them one by one, studying each with quiet attention. Some are almost perfectly straight from end to end. Others bend slightly where they once leaned against neighboring reeds in the marsh. Every stem has lived its own quiet life before reaching his hands. Some grew in open sunlight. Others stretched upward through crowded patches where many reeds competed for the same light. Some survived strong winds. Some remained protected by thicker growth nearby. Those small differences matter now. The basket maker may never know exactly where each reed grew, but the sorter can often guess. Years of patient work have taught him to notice details that younger workers often overlook. His fingers move without haste. There is no reason to hurry. A rushed hand breaks more reeds than it saves. Nearby, the gentle sound of weaving fills one of the workshops. Dry reeds slide across one another with a soft whisper that rises and falls like quiet breathing. Every few moments comes the light tap of wood against woven fibers as a basket maker presses each row neatly into place. It is not loud. It is not completely silent. It is simply another familiar sound that belongs to this place. The sorter has heard it nearly every day of his life. Sometimes he notices it. Sometimes it becomes part of the background, blending with birds, footsteps, and the slow movement of the river. A young apprentice enters the workshop carrying a fresh bundle. He cannot be more than 12 years old. His shoulders are still narrow. His hands are eager but uncertain. He lays the reeds carefully beside an older craftsman, who smiles with tired but kind eyes. Without saying much, the older man picks up a single stem. He bends it slowly. Then he hands it back. The boy copies the motion. His first attempt is awkward. The reed snaps. The older man simply nods. No scolding follows. Only another reed is offered. Learning here happens through repetition. Mistakes disappear into tomorrow's lessons. The reed sorter watches quietly before returning to his own work. He remembers his own first days. His father had shown him how to separate thick stems from thin ones. He had often chosen the wrong pile. His father had patiently moved each reed into its proper place without speaking many words. The lesson had been repeated again and again until the hands understood what the mind still struggled to remember. Now those same movements live inside him. They require almost no thought. The afternoon sun begins to shine through tiny floating bits of dust. The light seems golden now instead of white. Each particle drifts slowly through the warm air. Inside the workshops, shadows stretch longer across packed earth floors. Outside, the paths remain busy. A farmer passes carrying a wooden yoke across his shoulders. 2 clay water jars hang from either end. With each careful step, the jars sway gently. The water inside makes a soft sloshing sound. He has walked this road countless times. His pace is steady. He does not waste energy. Another family returns from the fields. Their donkey carries bundles of harvested plants tied carefully with rope made from twisted fibers. The animal walks patiently, ears flicking away flies. Its hooves leave shallow marks in the dusty road. Behind them, 2 children gather fallen twigs for the evening fire. They speak quietly, their voices almost carried away by the still air. Closer to the river, Several women rinse linen clothing against smooth stones. They work with practiced rhythm. Water splashes softly. Wet cloth catches the afternoon light. Nearby, children splash carefully in the shallows under the watchful eyes of older relatives. Their laughter rises only briefly before fading again into the calm sounds of the village. Nothing seems hurried. Even the busiest moments move with a peaceful rhythm. The reed sorter reaches the final stems of another bundle. He ties the finished group with a simple strip of plant fiber. The bundle feels firm in his hands. Ready. Useful. It will soon become part of someone's daily life. Perhaps it will carry fresh figs from a garden. Perhaps grain from a harvest. Perhaps fish brought home before sunset. He will never know. His work leaves his hands long before the finished basket reaches another family. That is simply how life moves. Many people contribute to one useful object. Few see the entire journey. As the afternoon slowly drifts onward, clouds begin gathering far beyond the western desert. They are thin and pale. Their shadows move lazily across distant fields before disappearing. The Nile continues flowing beneath them without concern. A pair of white birds glides low above the water. Their wings barely disturb the air. For a moment, they settle among the reeds before lifting again. The marsh seems alive with quiet movement. Small fish ripple the surface. Tiny insects dance above the water. Dragonflies rest on reed tips that bend gently beneath their weight. Everything feels balanced. Everything moves at its own gentle pace. The sorter steps toward the water's edge. His hands are dusty with fine plant fibers. He kneels slowly and washes them in the cool river. The water feels refreshing after hours beneath the sun. Small circles spread outward from his fingertips. He watches them fade. The river accepts every movement without keeping any trace. For a few moments he remains there, listening. The soft splash of distant oars. Birds calling from hidden nests. The whisper of reeds brushing together whenever the slightest breeze appears. These sounds have accompanied nearly every day of his life. He cannot imagine work without them. When he stands again, the air feels just a little cooler. Not much. Only enough to notice. The long afternoon has begun its slow journey toward evening. Back in the workshop, finished baskets continue taking shape. An older woman carefully weaves a small storage basket. Her fingers move more slowly than they once did, but they almost never make mistakes. Years have softened her hands without stealing their skill. A young girl sits beside her, watching every movement. She asks quiet questions. The woman answers gently. Sometimes she demonstrates. Sometimes she simply smiles and lets the child observe. There is no hurry. Knowledge passes from one generation to the next in small moments like these. No written instructions are needed. The hands teach. The eyes remember. The heart becomes patient. Outside, the reed sorter arranges tomorrow's bundles beneath a simple shelter made from wooden poles and woven mats. Too much sun would dry them too quickly. Too much moisture would invite decay. Finding the right balance is another part of the work. He checks each stack carefully. Nothing is left to chance if it can be helped. Nearby, another worker repairs an older basket whose handle has loosened after many seasons of use. Rather than throwing it away, he carefully replaces only the worn pieces. Good baskets often serve families for many years. Each repair adds another quiet chapter to their story. The repaired basket may one day belong to someone's children. Perhaps even grandchildren. Objects are expected to last. They are respected. As the shadows grow longer, the smell of evening cooking begins drifting across the village once again. Fresh bread bakes inside clay ovens. Onions roast beside warm coals. Lentils simmer gently inside blackened pots. Someone prepares herbs gathered earlier that morning. The scent mixes with smoke rising lazily into the sky. It is a familiar signal. The day's hardest work is slowly ending. Workers begin cleaning their tools. Knives are wiped carefully. Bundles are covered. Clay jars are sealed. Nothing is abandoned carelessly. Tomorrow will come early. Everything should be ready. The reed sorter looks once more across the marsh. The tall reeds sway almost imperceptibly. Their green tops catch the fading sunlight, glowing softly against the darker water beyond. Many more still stand waiting to be harvested in the coming days. There will always be more work. More sorting. More weaving. More baskets finding their way into ordinary homes where they will quietly serve families through seasons of planting, harvesting, cooking, and resting. He feels no disappointment in that thought. Routine is comforting. The familiar path asks little from the mind. It simply continues. He lifts the final bundle onto his shoulder. Its weight is comfortable, neither heavy nor light. His muscles know it well. With slow, measured steps, he begins the walk back through the village as the first gentle colors of evening spread across the ancient sky, and another peaceful day beside the Nile gradually gives way to the quiet promise of night. The light softens almost without anyone noticing. The bright gold of the afternoon slowly becomes a deeper ember, settling gently across the fields and the quiet streets of the village. Long shadows stretch from mud brick walls and date palms. The heat has not disappeared, but it has begun to loosen its grip, allowing the evening air to feel just a little easier to breathe. The reed sorter walks home at the same steady pace he has followed for many years. The bundle upon his shoulder feels familiar. The path beneath his sandals feels familiar. Even the small sounds around him seem to greet him like old companions. A donkey pulls a simple cart filled with clay jars. Its wooden wheels turn slowly, leaving narrow tracks in the dry earth. A woman sweeps the front of her home with a bundle of stiff reeds tied together at one end. Each gentle sweep sends a thin cloud of dust drifting across the ground before it settles once again. Nearby, an elderly man sits beneath the shade of a sycamore tree. His day's work is finished. His hands rest quietly upon his knees. He watches the village without speaking. Children pass by carrying little baskets no larger than their heads. Some are filled with onions. Others hold figs gathered from nearby trees. One little girl carries only a few herbs wrapped carefully inside linen cloth. She walks slowly, taking care not to drop them. The basket she carries may have been woven months earlier by one of the craftsmen who worked with the reeds sorted this very morning. No one thinks about that connection. Yet it exists all the same. Every object carries with it the quiet work of many unseen hands. The reed sorter reaches the edge of the village. His home is simple. Like nearly every house nearby, it is built from sun-dried mud bricks mixed long ago with straw and river clay. The walls are thick. They keep the midday heat outside as well as they can. The flat roof offers another place to rest after sunset when cooler air finally arrives. The doorway stands open. Inside, the room is dim. The fading sunlight enters only through the entrance and a small opening near the roof. His wife looks up as he steps inside. She smiles softly. No grand greeting is needed. After many years together, quiet understanding has become its own language. She notices the dust upon his shoulders. He notices the fresh bread resting beneath a woven cloth. Both understand how the day has passed. Their youngest child sits on the floor beside a small basket filled with smooth stones collected from the riverbank. One by one, the child carefully places each stone into another basket, then moves them back again. It is a simple game. Perhaps it is also the beginning of learning. Tiny hands grow steady through small tasks. The older children have returned from helping relatives in nearby fields. Their feet are dusty. Their faces are warm from the long day beneath the sun. One washes carefully using water poured from a clay jar. Another helps prepare the evening meal without being asked. These routines have become part of family life. Each person knows where they are needed. Outside, the village slowly changes its rhythm. The louder sounds of labor begin to disappear. Hammers grow silent. The scraping of wooden sledges fades away. The voices of merchants become fewer. Instead, quieter sounds take their place. The soft crackle of cooking fires. The gentle lowing of cattle returning to their shelters. Goats settling for the night. Birds making their final flights toward resting places among palms and reeds. The reed sorter places tomorrow's work knife upon a small wooden shelf. He sharpens it only when needed. A blade that is too sharp may cut the reeds too deeply. A blade that is too dull crushes the fibers instead of slicing them cleanly. Even a simple tool asks for balance. He washes his face. The cool water removes fine dust that has settled there throughout the day. His hands remain rough despite the washing. Years of gripping reeds have left the skin thick and firm. Tiny lines cross his palms like small river channels. Each tells a quiet story of ordinary work. The evening meal is ready. The family gathers together upon woven mats. The bread is still warm. Steam escapes as it is gently broken into pieces. There are lentils cooked until soft. A few onions. Some fresh herbs. A little fish brought from the river earlier in the day. Water is poured carefully into simple cups. No one rushes to eat. The meal is peaceful. Conversation comes and goes in gentle waves. One child speaks about seeing a turtle near the marsh. Another wonders whether tomorrow they might help gather dates. The mother reminds everyone that more grain must be stored before the next market day. The father listens quietly. Sometimes he speaks. Sometimes he simply nods. There is comfort in these ordinary conversations. No one imagines that centuries later such simple evenings would become almost impossible to picture. Yet this is how most lives are lived. Not among temples. Not inside palaces. But around shared meals after long days of work. Outside, twilight deepens. The western sky glows softly before slowly surrendering its light. One by one, the first stars begin appearing overhead. The Nile reflects them in broken patterns as gentle ripples move across its surface. Fishermen still remain upon the water. Some prefer the calm of evening. The air is cooler. The river feels quieter. Their small boats drift almost silently between patches of reeds. Back inside the house, the youngest child grows sleepy. Heavy eyelids blink more slowly. The mother gently lifts the little one into her arms. A quiet song follows. Simple. Soft. Without hurry. The melody has likely been sung by countless parents through countless generations. Its words may change from family to family. Its purpose never does. It invites sleep. The reed sorter steps outside once more. The air has become pleasant now. He walks a short distance beyond the houses toward the edge of the village. Many neighbors are doing the same. Some sit together. Others prefer a little quiet after the day's labor. Nobody seems eager to fill the evening with noise. The day has already spoken enough. He looks toward the marsh. Even in the fading light, he can make out the tall reeds standing close together. Tomorrow they will sway beneath another sunrise. Some will be harvested. Some will remain where they are, growing taller beside the slow river. The marsh never appears exactly the same. Water levels change little by little. Birds choose different resting places. New reeds emerge while older ones fade. Yet the whole landscape remains wonderfully familiar. A light breeze finally arrives. It passes gently through the reeds. Their leaves brush together with a delicate whisper. The sound is so soft that it almost disappears beneath the steady chorus of evening insects. The reed sorter closes his eyes for just a moment. He knows these sounds better than any music. They have followed him since childhood. They greeted him each morning. They welcomed him home each night. They marked the passing of seasons more faithfully than any calendar. Across the village, small oil lamps begin glowing inside homes. Their warm light shines through open doorways. The flickering flames cast gentle shadows upon mud brick walls. Families settle into the slower hours of the evening. Some repair clothing. Some twist fresh cord from plant fibers. Others simply rest tired muscles after another demanding day. An elderly grandmother carefully mends the edge of an old basket. The woven strands have loosened after years of faithful use. She moistens a few fresh reeds before weaving them carefully into the older pattern. Her fingers move slowly. There is no impatience. She has done this many times before. Beside her, two grandchildren watch with quiet curiosity. Perhaps one day they will remember these evenings. Perhaps they will remember only the feeling of safety that filled the room as their grandmother worked beneath the soft glow of the lamp. Not every memory keeps its details. Some remember only warmth. Only peace. Only the comforting rhythm of ordinary life. Far beyond the village, the desert grows cool beneath the stars. Its daytime heat slips quietly into the darkness. Jackals call in the distance. Their voices drift faintly across the open land before fading away again. No one is alarmed. The sounds belong to the night just as birds belong to the morning. The reed sorter finally returns inside. The lamp burns low. Its flame dances gently whenever the evening breeze finds its way through the doorway. The family prepares their sleeping mats. Blankets are shaken lightly to remove the day's dust. Clay water jars are placed within easy reach. Sandals are set neatly beside the entrance, ready for another early morning. Outside, the Nile continues its endless journey through the sleeping land. It has carried boats, fishermen, merchants, farmers, and bundles of fresh reeds since long before anyone living can remember. Tonight it carries only moonlight and quiet reflections, moving patiently through the darkness while the village slowly surrenders to rest, preparing, without hurry, for another peaceful sunrise and another gentle day of sorting reeds for basket making. The night deepens slowly above the Nile. Stars spread across the sky in such great numbers that the darkness itself seems filled with gentle light. The village rests beneath them, quiet and still, while the river continues moving through the ancient land with patient certainty. From a distance, the homes appear as low shadows gathered close together beside the water. Inside the reed sorter's house, the oil lamp has burned down to a small flame. Its light flickers softly across the mud brick walls. The family sleeps. A child turns once upon a woven mat before becoming still again. The mother breathes slowly beside the youngest child. The reed sorter lies on his back for a few moments, listening to the sounds of the night that drift through the doorway. A donkey shifts outside. A goat gives a sleepy rustle from its shelter. Far away, a fisherman calls quietly to another boat upon the river. Then silence returns. Not empty silence. A living silence filled with tiny sounds that belong only to nighttime. The reed sorter closes his eyes. Sleep comes gently after a day of steady labor. His hands, which spent so many hours sorting and tying reeds, finally rest. The small aches in his shoulders fade little by little. Tomorrow will ask for the same work again, but tonight there is only darkness, cool air, and the slow comfort of rest. Hours pass unnoticed. The moon crosses the sky. The village remains still. Near the marshes, reeds sway lightly whenever a breeze touches them. Their narrow leaves brush together with a soft whisper that carries across the water. Birds sleep with their heads tucked beneath their wings. Small fish move beneath the surface where moonlight breaks into silver pieces. Before dawn, the air grows coolest. This is the hour many workers know well. The stars remain bright, but a faint paling has begun in the east. Inside the house, the reed sorter wakes naturally. For a moment he does not move. He listens. The night insects are quieter now. A rooster calls from somewhere beyond the neighboring walls. Another answers. The world is beginning to wake. He rises carefully so the children remain asleep. His sandals wait where he left them. The leather feels cool against his feet. Outside, the sky is still dark enough that the stars can be seen, yet the shape of the river has begun to appear beyond the houses. Thin smoke already rises from a few early cooking fires. A woman carries water jars toward the river. An old fisherman walks with a folded net across his shoulder. Two young boys yawn as they lead a stubborn donkey toward the fields. The reed sorter nods to them as he passes. No one speaks much at this hour. The quiet feels precious. The path to the marsh is damp with night moisture. Tiny drops cling to grasses beside the road. His footsteps leave faint marks in the dust. Ahead, the reeds stand tall and dark against the paling sky. Another day of work waits there. The cutters arrive one by one. Their simple knives hang at their waists. A small boat rests half hidden among the plants. Mist drifts low above the water, softening every edge. The river seems almost asleep. The first reed falls with a gentle rustle. Then another. The work begins. Fresh bundles are laid upon the ground. The sorter kneels beside them and starts separating the stems while dawn slowly brightens around him. The colors change gradually. Deep blue becomes gray. Gray becomes pale gold. Birds begin calling from the marsh. A heron lifts into the air with slow, careful wings. Its reflection stretches across the water before breaking apart. The reeds feel cool and slightly wet from the night. As the sun rises, that coolness will disappear. For now, the morning is gentle. The sorter enjoys these early hours most of all. The air is easy to breathe. The light is soft. The day's heat has not yet arrived. He lifts each stem, checking length, thickness, and strength. Some will become heavy baskets for grain. Some will become lighter baskets carried to market. Some will be woven into lids, trays, or storage containers tucked into the corners of family homes. A bent reed is placed aside. A cracked one joins another pile. Nothing useful is wasted. Nearby, one of the younger workers asks a question about drying times. The sorter answers quietly. If the reeds dry too quickly in harsh sun, they become brittle. If they stay damp too long, they weaken. The younger man listens carefully. These are small pieces of knowledge, but they matter. A good basket begins long before the weaving starts. As the sun clears the horizon, golden light spreads across the marsh. The mist fades. Insects wake. The river takes on a bright shimmer that makes the eyes narrow. The village behind them grows busier. Bread ovens warm. Children fetch water. Farmers lead oxen toward fields darkened by river mud. A scribe walks carefully to a storehouse carrying his writing tools wrapped in cloth. The smell of fresh bread drifts faintly through the air. The sorter works steadily. His hands move almost without thought. Tie. Separate. Inspect. Stack. Tie again. The rhythm is soothing. Sometimes he notices only the reeds. Sometimes his mind wanders gently. He thinks about whether the roof will need more mud before the next rains. He thinks about the youngest child learning to carry a small basket without spilling its contents. He thinks about the old basket near the doorway that has served the family for many years. Simple thoughts. Quiet thoughts. The sun climbs higher. Warmth settles across his shoulders. Sweat begins to gather at his temples. He wipes it away with the back of his hand and continues. A basket maker arrives to collect yesterday's prepared bundles. He bends several stems, testing their flexibility. Satisfied, he loads them onto a small sled. The sorter watches him leave, the bundles bobbing gently with each step. Soon those reeds will disappear into the workshop and return as finished baskets. The transformation still feels a little remarkable, even after all these years. Plants from the marsh become useful objects that travel through homes, fields, boats, and markets. By mid-morning the marsh is bright and warm. The cutters rest briefly in the shade. One drinks from a clay jar and passes it to another. The water tastes faintly of the river and cool earth. A dragonfly lands on the rim before darting away. The sorter remains near his piles, finishing a final bundle before resting. Across the water, a fisherman pulls in a net. Silver fish flash in the sunlight. A child standing in the boat claps softly at the sight. The sound carries faintly across the river. The sorter smiles without looking up from his work. The village and the marsh feel connected by countless small moments like this. Fish become meals. Reeds become baskets. Grain fills those baskets. Families carry the grain home. The cycle continues day after day. Nothing seems grand. Everything seems necessary. When the rest period ends, the workers return to the reeds. The sun is stronger now. Shadows shorten. The air grows heavy. Yet the work continues with the same calm rhythm. The sorter lifts another stem and turns it in his fingers, listening to the soft whisper of reeds, the distant splash of oars, and the steady breathing of the ancient river as the peaceful morning slowly unfolds into another warm Egyptian day. By the time the sun has climbed well above the eastern horizon, the coolness of dawn has become only a memory. The warmth settles gently across the valley, spreading over the fields, the workshops, the village paths, and the quiet marsh where the reeds continue their slow dance with the light breeze. The air carries the familiar scent of damp earth slowly drying beneath the growing heat. The reed sorter pauses for only a moment. He lifts his eyes toward the river. The Nile glitters beneath the morning sun, every small ripple catching light before letting it drift away again. Tiny boats move steadily across the water, their reflections stretching and shortening with each gentle wave. Nothing upon the river appears hurried. Even those with much work to do seem to understand that the current itself has no reason to rush. It has flowed this way for generations beyond counting. It will continue long after today's workers have finished their tasks. The thought brings a quiet comfort. He lowers his gaze once more. Another bundle waits. The reeds have already begun to warm beneath the sunlight. Their fresh green color has softened slightly as the moisture left by the night slowly disappears. He reaches for the first stem. His fingers slide along its length. The smooth outer surface tells him much before he even bends it. He notices tiny marks left by insects. He notices where the stem thickens near its base. He notices how evenly it grew. Each reed offers a small story to anyone patient enough to look. Years ago, he needed to examine every stem carefully. Now much of that knowledge lives inside his hands. His fingers often know before his eyes. Nearby, another worker begins laying fresh bundles upon woven mats so they may dry evenly. The mats themselves were woven many seasons ago. Some are patched in places where old fibers have worn away. Nothing is discarded while it can still serve a purpose. Even worn objects remain useful. That quiet habit shapes nearly every corner of village life. The basket makers think the same way. The farmers think the same way. The fishermen think the same way. Care makes simple things last. A gentle breeze arrives from across the water. It carries coolness for only a few moments before fading again. The reeds sway together. Thousands of slender stems move as though they share a single breath. The soft rustling spreads across the marsh like distant rain, though no rain falls today. The reed sorter stops working just long enough to listen. He has heard this sound since childhood. It has never become ordinary. It changes with every breeze. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it sighs. Sometimes it becomes almost completely silent. This morning it speaks softly. The younger apprentice arrives carrying a bundle almost too large for his shoulders. He sets it down carefully, wiping sweat from his forehead. The older sorter notices several stems mixed together without order. Long reeds lie beside short ones. Strong stems rest beside weak ones. He kneels beside the pile. Without criticism, he begins separating them. The boy watches closely. The older man speaks quietly. He explains that every basket begins here. Not in the weaving. Not in the workshop. Here. With careful choosing. The apprentice nods. He picks up another reed. This time he studies it more closely before placing it into the correct pile. The older sorter smiles almost unnoticed. Learning often happens through silence. The sun continues rising. The shadows become smaller. Across the river, farmers bend over green fields nourished by the rich dark soil left behind when the flood waters had long ago withdrawn. Oxen move patiently through the earth. Wooden plows leave neat lines behind them. The work is steady. The pace is slow. Nobody expects the land to answer quickly. Good harvests come through patience. Just as good baskets do. A woman carrying fresh bread walks along the dusty path toward one of the workshops. The warm smell reaches the workers before she does. Simple flat loaves rest beneath a clean linen cloth. Their crusts are lightly browned. Steam still rises from them. She shares the bread among several craftsmen. Each accepts it with quiet gratitude. The meal is simple. Bread. A few olives. Some onions. Water cooled inside clay jars. The workers sit together beneath the shade of woven reed shelters. No one speaks loudly. The day's heat encourages slower voices. One man tells a short story about seeing a flock of white birds lifting from the marsh at sunrise. Another remembers when the river had risen unusually high many seasons earlier. The stories drift gently through the shade. Nobody interrupts. There is time enough. The reed sorter eats slowly. He tears small pieces from the bread. The crust is warm against his fingers. The inside remains soft. He dips it into crushed herbs mixed with oil before taking another bite. The meal does not last long. Neither does it need to. It offers strength without heaviness. When the last crumbs have been gathered, everyone returns quietly to work. The marsh has grown brighter now. Sunlight reflects from every pool of water. Small frogs leap into the reeds whenever footsteps approach. Dragonflies dart through the warm air with flashes of blue and green. Tiny fish disturb the river's surface before disappearing once again beneath the gentle current. The reed sorter notices a bundle that feels unusually heavy. The stems are thick. They likely grew in deeper water where conditions allowed them to become stronger. He sets these aside for storage baskets. Families depend upon sturdy containers for grain. Weak reeds would fail beneath such weight. Good reeds protect the harvest. In that way, even this quiet work helps carry families through the year. A merchant arrives leading 2 donkeys. The animals carry empty baskets waiting to be filled with goods from nearby villages. Some will soon hold vegetables. Others will carry pottery or woven cloth. The merchant greets the basket makers before examining several finished pieces. He turns one basket slowly in his hands. His fingers press gently against the weaving. He nods with satisfaction. The basket is firm, even, balanced. He smiles toward the workshop. Though he speaks little, everyone understands. Good work has been recognized. The merchant loads the baskets carefully. The donkeys stand patiently. Leather straps are tightened. The load is balanced equally across both sides. Soon they begin their slow journey along the dusty road leading away from the river. The reed sorter watches until they disappear beyond a line of date palms. Perhaps those baskets will travel farther than he ever will. Perhaps they will reach another village where strangers will carry grain home after market day. Perhaps children not yet born will one day use them. He will never know. His work quietly continues beyond his sight. That thought pleases him. He does not need to witness every result. It is enough to know the work has been done well. As the morning slowly leans toward midday, the air becomes still once again. The breeze disappears. Heat settles heavily across the marsh. The workers move more slowly now, not because they are tired of their tasks, but because the sun asks them to conserve their strength. Even the birds become quieter. Many retreat into patches of shade among thicker reeds. The river alone seems unchanged. It keeps moving with the same gentle patience. Always forward. Always calm. The sorter lifts another reed. Then another. Then another. The movements have become almost like breathing. Separate. Inspect. Turn. Stack. Tie. His shoulders rise and fall with quiet rhythm. His hands never hurry. Around him, others work in much the same way. The marsh seems filled with peaceful repetition. Nothing dramatic happens. Nothing needs to. Ordinary days are built from countless small actions repeated with care. These are the moments that fill most human lives. They are rarely carved into stone. Rarely written onto papyrus. Yet they shape every village, every family, every harvest, and every shared meal. The reed sorter glances toward the workshop where fresh baskets continue taking form. He can hear the faint whisper of weaving carried across the warm air. Reed crossing reed. Fiber tightening gently around another. Patient hands giving shape to something useful. The sound blends with the distant call of water birds and the quiet splash of an oar somewhere out upon the Nile. Together they create a rhythm as old as the river itself. The sorter smiles softly without realizing it. He reaches for another waiting bundle, while above him the sun continues its slow journey across the endless Egyptian sky, and another peaceful day unfolds, one careful reed at a time. As the sun continues its slow climb, the morning quietly gives itself over to the long hours before midday. The shadows beneath the palms grow shorter. The open ground becomes brighter. The warm earth begins to release the scent it has gathered through the coolness of the night. It is a gentle smell of dry soil, river clay, and reeds slowly warming beneath the clear Egyptian sky. The reed sorter reaches for another bundle. Its fibers feel slightly different from those he handled earlier. These reeds were cut from a place where the marsh is deeper and the current moves more slowly. Their stems are thicker near the base, with smooth surfaces that catch the sunlight like polished wood. He rolls one between his fingers. It bends without complaint. He nods almost to himself. This one will become part of a basket meant to carry heavy grain. The simple decision lasts only a heartbeat. Then he places the reed with others like it. Hundreds of small choices fill his day. No single choice seems important. Together they shape every basket that leaves the workshop. Nearby, one of the cutters kneels beside the water. His knife has become dull after many mornings of careful work. He takes a smooth stone from a leather pouch and begins sharpening the blade. The sound is soft. Stone against metal. Back and forth. Back and forth. It is almost as steady as breathing. When he finishes, he wipes the blade carefully with a scrap of linen before returning it to his belt. Nothing is rushed. A well-kept tool rewards a patient hand. Farther along the marsh, a flock of ibises steps carefully through the shallow water. Their long legs disturb only the smallest ripples. Each bird pauses, searching the mud for tiny creatures hidden beneath the surface. Every movement is slow, measured, deliberate. The reed sorter watches them for a moment. He has seen these birds every season of his life. They belong to the marsh just as surely as the reeds themselves. When they suddenly lift together into the sky, their white wings catch the sunlight. For a few quiet moments, they circle above the river before disappearing toward another stretch of wetland. The marsh becomes peaceful again. A dragonfly lands upon the tip of a tall reed. The stem bends slightly beneath its tiny weight. The insect remains perfectly still. Its wings shimmer with faint colors whenever the light reaches them. Then, without warning, it darts away faster than the eye can easily follow. The reed continues swaying long after the dragonfly has gone. The sorter smiles faintly. The marsh is full of small moments. Many happen without anyone noticing. Others become quiet memories carried through the years. A young mother walks along the edge of the river carrying a basket on her hip. Her little daughter walks beside her. The child is fascinated by everything. She stops to watch tiny fish. She reaches toward a floating feather. She points at birds hidden among the reeds. The mother waits patiently each time. There is no need to hurry. The morning is still young. When they pass the workers, the little girl stares at the neat rows of sorted reeds. She tilts her head with quiet curiosity. The reed sorter lifts one short stem and offers it to her. She accepts it with both hands as though it were something precious. Her smile is small but bright. She thanks him in a soft voice before hurrying to catch her mother. Soon they disappear along the riverside path. Perhaps later she will pretend the reed is a tiny fishing pole. Perhaps it will become part of another game. Perhaps she will simply carry it until evening before forgetting where she placed it. The sorter does not mind. Some gifts are meant only for a single day. The work continues. The piles beside him slowly grow. One stack is tall and thick. Another is made entirely of slender stems meant for finer weaving. A third contains only the strongest reeds harvested this week. Each pile has its own purpose. Each waits quietly for the hands of a basket maker. Across the village, the sounds of daily life drift toward the marsh. A potter shapes wet clay upon a turning wheel. Children laugh briefly before being called back to chores. Someone shakes out a woven blanket from a rooftop, sending tiny clouds of dust into the sunlight. Goats wander between shaded courtyards. A baker removes fresh loaves from the hot oven with a long wooden paddle. The smell of warm bread travels easily through the still air. Even here beside the river, the workers notice it. One of them chuckles softly. "It smells ready," he says. Another nods. Everything does. The conversation ends there. There is nothing more that needs saying. Silence returns comfortably. The reed sorter reaches the end of another bundle. He ties it neatly with a strip of twisted plant fiber. The knot is firm but simple. Strong enough to hold. Easy enough to untie. He places it beside the others. A cart will collect them later. The basket makers will begin weaving before the day is done. Not far away, an elderly craftsman sits outside his workshop. His eyesight is no longer as sharp as it once was. Instead of weaving the smallest baskets, he now repairs damaged ones. His work requires patience more than speed. A woman arrives carrying a basket whose rim has loosened. The old craftsman turns it slowly in his hands. He studies every woven strand. He traces the worn places with gentle fingertips. He says very little. After a long moment, he nods. It still has many years left. The woman smiles with relief. She leaves the basket in his care. Nothing useful should be wasted. The old craftsman begins carefully removing only the damaged reeds. One at a time. Never more than necessary. The basket has carried vegetables, bread, jars, and grain through many seasons. Now it receives quiet care so it may continue serving another family. The reed sorter watches for a few moments. He feels a quiet respect. There is beauty in mending. There is kindness in preserving what still has life within it. The sun climbs higher. The air grows heavier. The workers begin seeking patches of shade whenever they pause. Even a narrow shadow cast by a reed shelter offers welcome relief. The sorter drinks from a clay jar. The water is cool enough to refresh him. Tiny beads of moisture cling to the outside of the jar. He runs one finger through them before taking another drink. The clay has done its quiet work well. It has kept the water pleasant despite the growing heat. He wipes his forehead with the edge of his linen cloth. The breeze has disappeared completely now. The reeds stand almost perfectly still. Only the occasional bird disturbs their calm. Far across the river, two fishermen pull their small boat onto a muddy bank. Their morning catch glitters faintly inside woven baskets lined with damp reeds. One fish gives a final splash before becoming still. The men laugh quietly about something only they can hear. Then they begin walking toward the village market. Soon those fish will become someone's evening meal. Another ordinary thread woven into the life of the community. The reed sorter thinks about the many baskets he has helped begin. Some carried fish. Some carried figs. Some carried onions fresh from the fields. Others held writing tools for scribes or linen for merchants traveling dusty roads. A few even traveled aboard boats, crossing the river again and again as the seasons passed. He has never counted them. He never could. There have simply been too many. The thought does not make him proud. Instead, it gives him a quiet sense of belonging. His work has become part of many lives he will never see. Without speaking his name, people use the baskets every day. That is enough. The first hint of midday arrives. The light grows almost white above the marsh. The earth begins radiating heat upward. The insects hum more steadily now. Even the birds retreat deeper into the shade. The workers slow their movements just a little, saving strength for the long afternoon still to come. The reed sorter lifts another fresh bundle. He unties the simple cord. The stems slide gently into his waiting hands. One by one, he begins again. Straight. Curved. Strong. Flexible. Long. Short. His careful rhythm continues beneath the warm Egyptian sun, while the quiet Nile flows beside him just as it always has, carrying cool water through a land where ordinary people shape ordinary things with extraordinary patience. The sun now stands high above the river valley. Its light falls almost straight down, bright upon the marsh, bright upon the fields, bright upon the roofs of the mud brick homes that seem to rest quietly beneath the endless blue sky. The cool breath of morning has completely faded. In its place comes the steady warmth that every worker expects during the season. The reed sorter does not complain. The heat has been part of his life for as long as he can remember. He knows how to move within it. He knows when to slow his hands. He knows when to step into the shade. He knows how to save his strength for the long hours that still remain before evening. Another bundle lies before him. He unties the simple cord. The reeds spread gently across the woven mat. Some are pale green. Others have already begun turning the warm golden color that comes as they dry. Each stem catches the sunlight differently. Some shine softly. Others appear almost dull until they are turned in the hand. He enjoys these quiet differences. They remind him that no two reeds are ever exactly alike. Each one has grown in its own place beside the river. Some stood close to open water. Some grew where the marsh became thick and crowded. Some bent beneath strong winds. Others stood protected among taller plants. Now they have all arrived together, waiting patiently for their next purpose. He lifts the first reed. His thumb glides slowly along its length. There is a tiny rough place near the middle. He bends it gently. The fibers hold. It is still strong. He places it with the others chosen for larger baskets. The next reed is thinner. It will weave more easily around the curved sides of a smaller basket meant for carrying bread or fruit. Into another pile it goes. The work continues with the same peaceful rhythm. Nothing changes quickly. Nothing needs to. Around him the marsh has become quieter than it was during the cool hours of morning. Many birds have settled into shaded places where they wait for the hottest part of the day to pass. Only an occasional call rises above the stillness. Somewhere beyond the reeds, a turtle slips quietly into the water. Small circles spread across the surface before disappearing. The Nile accepts the movement without disturbance. Its steady current continues toward distant places the reed sorter will never see. He has traveled only a little beyond his village during his lifetime. There has rarely been reason to go farther. Everything needed for life is here. The river. The marsh. The fields. The workshops. The market. His family. His neighbors. The familiar paths worn smooth by countless footsteps. To him, this small part of Egypt is the whole world. A breeze begins almost too gently to notice. It brushes across the tops of the reeds. The sound is delicate. A quiet whisper passes from one end of the marsh to the other. The sorter pauses again. Not because he is tired. Simply because he enjoys listening. Some sounds become companions over a lifetime. The rustling reeds. The splash of an oar. The creaking of woven baskets being lifted onto a donkey. The crackle of bread baking inside clay ovens. The distant voices of children playing before supper. These sounds ask for nothing. They simply exist. They quietly mark the passing of each day. Nearby, one of the basket makers has nearly finished a large storage basket. Its base is broad. Its walls rise evenly. Each row of weaving fits closely against the next. The craftsman presses gently with both thumbs, tightening the pattern little by little. His movements are careful. He has no need to hurry now. The shape has already been formed. Only small adjustments remain. A younger woman sits beside him weaving much smaller baskets. Her fingers move quickly but never carelessly. Thin reeds pass over and under one another with graceful precision. She occasionally wets a reed with cool water to keep it flexible before bending it into place. The sunlight catches tiny drops that cling to the fibers. They sparkle for only a moment before disappearing. The reed sorter watches quietly. Even after all these years, he enjoys seeing the reeds transformed. Only a short time ago they stood rooted beside the river. Now they slowly become something useful through the patience of skilled hands. It feels almost natural. As though the reeds themselves have always wished to become baskets. The morning edges closer to midday. The heat grows heavier. The workers gather beneath a simple shelter made from wooden poles covered with woven reed mats. The shade is thin, but welcome. Someone pours water from a tall clay jar into small cups. The water has remained surprisingly cool. Tiny drops gather on the outside of the jar before slipping slowly down its curved sides. The sorter drinks slowly. He lets the water rest in his mouth for a moment before swallowing. Its coolness spreads through him. Nearby, another worker unwraps fresh figs gathered at sunrise. Their skins are soft. Their sweet scent drifts through the shade. The fruit is shared without counting. Each person takes only enough. No one reaches first. No one reaches last. There is a quiet understanding among those who work together each day. One man begins repairing the strap of his sandal. The leather has stretched after many weeks of walking. Using a small bone needle and twisted plant fiber, he carefully stitches the worn place. The repair is simple. Strong enough to last many more days. Beside him, another worker smooths the handle of a wooden knife with a piece of fine sandstone. Tiny curls of wood fall onto the ground. He brushes them aside with the back of his hand. Even during rest, hands often remain busy. The sorter leans back against one of the shelter poles. He closes his eyes for only a few moments. Not to sleep. Only to enjoy the shade. He listens instead. A bee hums somewhere nearby. The reeds whisper softly beyond the shelter. A dove calls from a distant palm. Farther away still comes the faint creak of a cart rolling slowly along the dusty road. Each sound drifts through the warm air before fading into silence. The rest is brief. Soon everyone returns to work. The basket maker lifts his nearly finished basket into the sunlight. He turns it slowly. Checking. Feeling. Looking for any place where the weaving is uneven. Finding none, he smiles quietly. The basket is complete. He runs his hand gently around its rim. Smooth. Firm. Balanced. It is ready. A child from the nearby village arrives carrying a small message for the workshop. The merchant from the market has requested more grain baskets before the next market day. The craftsmen nod. There is no surprise. Good baskets are always needed. Harvests continue. Families continue. Markets continue. The work never truly ends. The reed sorter hears the message and looks toward the remaining bundles. There are plenty. The marsh has been generous this season. He feels grateful. Not in grand words. Simply in the quiet satisfaction of seeing enough good reeds stacked neatly beside the workshop. He remembers years when the river had risen differently. Some seasons produced fewer strong reeds. During those years every stem had to be chosen with even greater care. This year has been kinder. He unties another bundle. The fibers separate with a gentle rustle. Dust floats briefly through the sunlight before settling again. His hands begin their familiar work once more. Straight. Strong. Flexible. Even. Suitable. Not suitable. Each decision lasts only an instant. Together they shape the work of many people. Across the village, the midday meal begins. The smell of lentils cooking drifts through open doorways. Fresh bread cools upon woven trays. Children carry small baskets filled with onions, herbs, and dates from one household to another. An elderly woman sits beneath a shaded doorway twisting fresh rope from dried plant fibers. Her hands move steadily despite her age. A young boy watches every movement with careful attention. One day those hands will become his own. Knowledge passes quietly. Not through long speeches. Not through written lessons. But through watching. Repeating. Trying again. The reed sorter smiles as he notices the boy. He remembers standing beside his own father in much the same way many years ago. Watching. Listening. Learning patience before learning speed. The memory feels warm. Like sunlight softened by time. Above them, the sky remains perfectly clear. The great river continues its calm journey. The reeds continue growing. The baskets continue taking shape. And beneath the gentle weight of another ancient afternoon beginning to unfold, the reed sorter quietly reaches for the next waiting stem, content to let another peaceful hour pass exactly as the one before it. The afternoon begins so gently that no one can say exactly when morning has ended. The light changes little by little, becoming softer around the edges even as the warmth remains. The sun still shines brightly over the Nile, but its climb through the sky has slowed. Long hours of quiet work now stretch before the people of the village, each hour much like the last, each carrying its own small tasks and familiar comforts. The reed sorter rests both hands upon the bundle before him. For a moment, he simply feels the texture of the stems. They are warm now. The coolness of dawn has long since disappeared. The smooth outer skin feels dry beneath his fingertips, while inside each reed tiny fibers still hold just enough moisture to remain flexible. He has learned to notice such things without effort. His hands seem to understand before his thoughts arrive. He unties the bundle. The reeds spread gently across the woven mat with a quiet rustling sound. One stem rolls slightly away from the others. He reaches after it, smiling to himself. Even the simplest things have a way of choosing their own path. Around him, the workshops remain busy, though no one appears hurried. The steady rhythm of weaving continues. Soft whispers of reeds sliding over one another drip through the warm air. Occasionally comes the gentle tap of a wooden tool pressing the weave into place. The sounds rise and fall together like slow breathing. They have become the music of the afternoon. A young basket maker sits near the doorway where the light is strongest. His back is straight. His legs are folded beneath him. He is making a basket that will carry fresh bread to the market. The reeds chosen for it are finer than those used for grain baskets. Each strand bends easily. His fingers guide them into smooth circles that slowly climb upward. Every few moments he pauses to study the shape. The basket must be even. If one side rises too quickly, the finished piece will lean. Patience corrects what haste would overlook. The reed sorter enjoys watching these quiet moments. He rarely weaves baskets himself. His own work ends long before the final pattern appears. Yet he understands every stage. He knows how the quality of each reed will affect the basket months later. A weak stem hidden deep inside the weave may not show itself until the basket has carried many heavy loads. A strong reed, chosen carefully today, may still be serving a family years from now. The afternoon breeze returns for a little while. It moves across the marsh with gentle kindness. The tall reeds bow together, then slowly rise again. Their leaves brush against one another in countless tiny whispers. The sound reminds the sorter of rain, though the sky remains perfectly clear. Beyond the marsh, the river glimmers beneath the sun. A narrow fishing boat drifts close to the reeds. Two brothers work quietly together. One rows. The other checks a woven trap lowered into the shallow water earlier that morning. They lift it carefully. Inside are only a few fish. Enough for a meal. Enough to sell a little at the market. They seem satisfied. They lower the trap once more and allow the boat to drift with the gentle current. Nothing about their movements suggests disappointment. The river gives what it gives. Some days are generous. Others are modest. Both are accepted with calm hearts. The reed sorter returns his attention to the bundle before him. His fingers separate thick stems from thin, long from short, straight from gently curved. The movements repeat again and again. Yet they never become dull. Each bundle asks for fresh attention. Each one carries small differences. He notices a reed whose surface bears tiny marks left by insects many weeks ago. The damage is shallow. The stem is still strong. It joins the pile for medium-sized baskets. Nothing useful is rejected without reason. Nearby, an elderly woman walks slowly along the village path carrying an old basket over one arm. Its woven rim has become smooth from many years of use. The color has faded from pale gold to a soft brown. It has held grain, dates, vegetables, fresh bread, bundles of linen. Perhaps even sleeping kittens once, when children found them hidden beside a wall. No one could remember all the things it has carried. The woman stops outside the repair workshop. The old craftsman looks up with a welcoming smile. He accepts the basket carefully. Instead of looking first at the broken place, he turns the basket in both hands, almost as though greeting an old friend. He studies every woven strand. Some have loosened. A few have become thin with age. Most remain surprisingly strong. He nods. There is still good life here, he says quietly. The woman smiles. She is pleased. Replacing the basket would take time. Repairing it feels right. The craftsman begins his careful work. He removes only the damaged reeds, one at a time. His fingers move slowly. There is no reason to rush. A repair made with patience often lasts longer than one made in haste. The reed sorter watches for a few moments before continuing his own task. He admires such careful hands. There is dignity in preserving useful things. The sun leans a little farther west. Shadows begin to stretch again, though only slightly. The hardest heat of the day has begun to ease. Workers notice it almost without speaking. Shoulders relax. Breathing feels easier. The first hint of evening remains far away, yet everyone senses that the day has gently turned. A pair of boys arrives carrying empty baskets. They have been sent to collect vegetables from nearby gardens. Their baskets are light now. Soon they will be filled with onions, beans, cucumbers, and herbs. The boys stop beside the reed sorter. One of them points toward the carefully arranged bundles. "Will these become baskets like ours?" he asks. The sorter nods. "Some of them." The younger boy kneels beside one bundle. He touches a single reed with one careful finger. "It doesn't look like a basket." "Not yet," the sorter replies. The boy thinks quietly about those words. Then he smiles. He seems pleased by the idea that ordinary plants can slowly become something useful. The boys continue on their way. Their sandals leave faint prints in the dust. Soon they disappear among the village homes. The sorter watches them go. Perhaps one of them will someday learn this work. Perhaps not. Life has many paths. The reeds do not choose who will gather them. The baskets do not choose who will carry them. Each simply serves whoever needs them. The afternoon continues its peaceful rhythm. In the distance, a donkey pulls a small cart loaded with clay jars fresh from the potter's workshop. The wheels creak softly. Dust rises behind them before settling once more upon the road. A woman shakes a woven mat outside her doorway. Tiny bits of straw dripped into the sunlight. A baker removes another round of bread from the oven. Warm air carries its comforting smell across the village. Somewhere nearby, someone begins grinding grain between smooth stones. The steady scraping sound blends with every other quiet noise of the afternoon. Nothing competes for attention. Everything belongs. The reed sorter drinks once more from the clay jar resting beneath the shelter. The water is no longer as cool as it was in the morning, yet it still refreshes him. He pours a little over his hands. Droplets catch the sunlight before disappearing into the dry earth. He looks across the marsh again. The reeds seem endless. They sway gently beneath the soft breeze. Birds move quietly among them. The Nile flows beside them, calm as ever. He knows that tomorrow will look much the same. And the day after that. The thought does not make him weary. Instead, it fills him with a deep sense of peace. There is comfort in familiar work. There is comfort in familiar paths. There is comfort in waking with the river, spending the day among the reeds, and returning home as the evening light settles over the village. These days may never be remembered by name. No scribe will write of this afternoon. No monument will honor the careful sorting of reeds. Yet this quiet labor supports countless lives. It carries grain to storehouses, bread to hungry families, fish from the river, fresh figs from shaded gardens, bundles of linen, clay jars, seeds for planting. Simple things that make each ordinary day possible. The reed sorter lifts another stem into the light. He turns it slowly between his fingers. Then, with the same calm care he has shown through every season of his life, he places it into its proper bundle while the warm afternoon glides peacefully onward beside the timeless waters of the Nile. The afternoon stretches gently across the valley, unrolling one quiet hour after another like a length of woven linen laid carefully upon the earth. The sunlight has begun to soften. It is still warm, still bright, but it no longer presses down with quite the same strength. A light breeze wanders through the marsh now and then, carrying the fresh scent of river water mixed with the sweet, green smell of growing reeds. The reed sorter notices the change without looking at the sky. His body has learned to read the day. The warmth upon his shoulders tells him the hour. The length of the shadows beside the bundles tells him the season. The songs of the birds tell him whether morning has fully passed or evening has begun its slow approach. There are no clocks. There is no need for them. The land itself keeps time. He reaches for another bundle. The cord that holds it together has been twisted from dried plant fibers. It is rough beneath his fingers but still strong. He unties it carefully, making sure it can be used again. Even a short length of cord has value. Nothing useful is thrown aside carelessly. The reeds slide gently onto the woven mat. Some still carry tiny traces of the marsh. A small leaf clings stubbornly to one stem. Another has a little patch of dried mud near its base. He brushes both away with slow, practiced movements. Nearby, the oldest basket maker in the workshop has begun teaching a new pattern to his apprentice. The basket will be slightly wider near its middle before narrowing again toward the top. It is a shape often used for storing dried grain inside family homes. The older craftsman does not speak constantly. Instead, he demonstrates. His hands move one reed at a time. The apprentice watches. Then he tries. His fingers hesitate. The reed slips from place. The older man simply lifts it and places it back into position. Again. The apprentice tries once more. This time the weave holds. A quiet nod follows. That is enough. Praise is gentle here. Learning grows slowly. Across the workshop another woman prepares reeds for weaving by soaking them briefly in a shallow clay basin. The water softens the fibers. When she lifts them out, tiny drops fall back into the basin with delicate splashes. The reeds become easier to bend without breaking. She lays them across a clean cloth where they glisten for a few moments before the warm air begins drying them again. The reed sorter watches these small preparations with quiet satisfaction. Every person contributes something. No task stands alone. The cutters gather the reeds. The sorter prepares them. The weavers shape them. The merchants carry them. Families fill them with food, tools, and harvests. Like the strands within a basket, every life crosses gently with another. The breeze grows a little stronger. The tops of the reeds sway together in long, graceful waves. The sound reminds him of whispered conversation. Not words. Only gentle voices blending together beyond hearing. He remembers walking through these marshes as a small boy. His father had walked ahead carrying a bundle over one shoulder. He himself had struggled with only a few reeds tied together by simple cord. He had wanted to carry more. His father had smiled. There will be time, he had said. There had indeed been time. Many years of it. Now his own shoulders have become broad through quiet work. His hands have grown rough. The reeds no longer feel heavy. They simply belong there. The memory fades gently, leaving behind only a warm feeling. A pair of ducks glides across a quiet pool near the edge of the marsh. They leave delicate ripples that spread outward until they touch the reeds along the bank. A turtle lifts its head above the surface. It remains still for several moments before disappearing once more beneath the water. Everything moves slowly. Everything seems content to follow its own pace. Not far away, a fisherman mends a torn net. He sits beneath the shade of an acacia tree with the net spread across his knees. His fingers work carefully through the broken places. Each knot is tied firmly. A net repaired with patience may serve for many more seasons. He hums softly as he works. The melody drifts only a short distance before being carried away by the breeze. The reed sorter cannot hear every note. Only enough to know that someone nearby is quietly at peace. The afternoon continues. Children pass along the river path carrying small clay jars balanced carefully against their hips. Some stop to watch tiny fish swimming near the shore. Others crouch beside the water to skip smooth stones across the surface. Their laughter rises briefly before settling again into the calm air. An older sister reminds them not to wander too far into the marsh. They nod obediently. The reeds can seem endless to young eyes. The paths between them are easy to lose. The sorter smiles. He remembers exploring those same winding paths long ago. Every bend had seemed mysterious then. Every patch of reeds had felt like its own little world. Now he knows nearly every corner of the marsh. He can tell where the strongest reeds grow, where birds build their nests, where the water remains deepest during the hottest months. The marsh has become almost like an old friend whose moods he understands. The sun slips a little farther toward the west. Its light becomes richer. Golden reflections dance across the surface of the Nile. Small insects hover above the water, their wings shining whenever they catch the sunlight. A swallow darts low, turning swiftly through the air before disappearing over the river. The reed sorter finishes another carefully arranged stack. He ties it neatly. The bundle stands upright beside several others waiting beneath the shade. Each one represents many quiet moments, many careful decisions, many patient hands. Soon a cart will carry them away. The workshop will slowly empty them. The baskets will begin taking shape. Perhaps by tomorrow some will already be holding fresh bread. The thought pleases him. He enjoys imagining the quiet journey of the reeds after they leave his care. One basket may find its place inside a baker's home. Another may travel aboard a fishing boat. A third may rest inside a merchant's storeroom. Still another may become part of a young couple's household as they begin life together. He will never meet most of those people. Yet in a small way, his work will accompany them. The afternoon meal is prepared beneath the shelter. Simple bowls of lentils. Fresh bread. A few cucumbers cooled in the shade. Dates gathered from nearby palms. The workers gather together once more. No one eats quickly. The day's pace has entered even the meal. Conversation wanders gently. Someone remarks that the river seems a little lower than last week. Another wonders whether more reeds should be gathered from the northern marsh tomorrow. The oldest basket maker recalls a season many years ago when unusually strong winds bent entire fields of reeds before harvest. The younger workers listen with interest. Stories like these are passed from one generation to the next. Not because they are extraordinary. Because they are useful. Experience becomes a quiet teacher. When the meal is finished, each person brushes away the crumbs. Water jars are passed around once more. The clay remains pleasantly cool despite the warmth of the day. The sorter pours a little water over his wrists. The coolness lingers only for a moment, yet it feels refreshing. He looks toward the village. Thin columns of smoke rise lazily from cooking fires being prepared for the evening meal. A woman hangs freshly washed linen upon a simple line stretched between two wooden posts. The cloth stirs gently in the breeze. A potter carries newly shaped jars into the shade where they will dry before firing. An old man sits outside his doorway carving a replacement handle for a wooden tool. Nothing in the village seems hurried. Each person moves with the quiet confidence that comes from repeating familiar work day after day. The reed sorter rises. His short rest has ended. The bundles still waiting beside him catch the warm afternoon light. He reaches for the nearest one. The cord slips loose beneath his fingers. The reeds spread softly across the mat. One by one, with calm attention and steady hands, he begins sorting again while the timeless Nile flows beside him, carrying the peaceful rhythm of another ordinary day gently toward evening. The afternoon slowly begins its quiet journey toward evening. The change comes so gently that it seems to happen without anyone noticing. The bright white light of midday slowly becomes warmer, touching the tops of the reeds with a soft golden color. The air remains warm, yet it no longer feels heavy upon the shoulders. A patient breeze returns from the direction of the river, carrying with it the fresh scent of water and damp earth. The reed sorter lifts his head. He breathes deeply. The coolness hidden inside the breeze is slight, but welcome. It brushes across his face before wandering through the marsh, setting thousands of slender reeds into slow, graceful motion. They bow together, then rise again. Their quiet whisper spreads across the wetlands like gentle breathing. He listens for a few moments before returning to his work. The sounds have never grown old. No matter how many seasons have passed, the marsh always speaks a little differently. Sometimes the reeds murmur softly. Sometimes they rustle together in long waves. Today they sound almost like distant rain moving across open land. The sorter unties another bundle. The cord has become smooth from many uses. He coils it neatly beside him. It will hold another bundle tomorrow. Nothing useful is wasted. The reeds rest across the woven mat. Some are thick and straight, perfect for baskets meant to carry grain after harvest. Others are slender enough for trays that will hold warm bread cooling outside village ovens. One stem catches his attention. It curves gently near its top where it must have leaned beneath the weight of another plant while growing. He turns it slowly in the sunlight. It is still strong. Its gentle curve will disappear once woven into the side of a basket. He smiles quietly. Not every imperfection remains forever. Sometimes careful hands know exactly where each piece belongs. Nearby, the youngest apprentice is sweeping the workshop floor. Small pieces of dried reed gather into neat little piles. He works carefully, making sure no useful fibers are accidentally thrown away. The older basket maker watches him from the doorway. "You see those short pieces?" he asks. The boy nods. They still have work to do. Together they gather the smallest lengths. Some will become repairs for old baskets. Others will be woven into tiny containers used for herbs or seeds. The apprentice seems pleased. Even the smallest reeds still matter. He places them carefully into a separate basket. The reed sorter hears the conversation and nods to himself. It is another lesson quietly passed from one generation to the next. Not through long speeches. Only through ordinary work done with care. The breeze freshens slightly. Across the river, several white sails appear. Small trading boats drift steadily with the current. Their linen sails glow warmly beneath the afternoon sun. From this distance the people aboard seem no larger than tiny figures moving slowly against the bright water. The boats carry many things. Clay jars. Bundles of linen. Fresh vegetables. Grain. Perhaps even baskets woven from reeds sorted here only weeks before. The sorter watches until they become smaller against the broad river. He wonders briefly where they are going. Perhaps north. Perhaps south. Wherever the current and the wind carry them. His own life rarely takes him beyond the nearby villages. Yet through these baskets, a small part of his work travels much farther than he ever will. That thought feels pleasant. Not important. Simply pleasant. The afternoon birds have become more active again. A kingfisher darts across the water in a flash of blue and copper. It pauses upon a low branch, watching the river with complete stillness. Then, in one swift movement, it dives. Tiny droplets scatter into the sunlight. Moments later it rises once more with a small silver fish held gently in its beak. The bird disappears into the reeds. The river grows calm again. Nothing in nature seems hurried. Every creature follows its own quiet rhythm. The reed sorter bends another stem. Its fibers answer with a faint creak. Healthy. Flexible. He places it with others of similar strength. Another stem feels lighter. Perhaps it grew where the soil was drier. Perhaps insects fed upon it during the growing season. He sets it aside for smaller household baskets that will carry little weight. Each reed finds its proper place. His hands decide almost without thought. The rhythm has become part of him. Lift. Turn. Feel. Choose. Lay it down. Repeat. The movements are steady enough to quiet the mind. Nearby, two women return from the river carrying fresh water. Each balances a clay jar upon her head while another rests comfortably against one hip. Their steps are slow and even. Years of practice have made the heavy jar seem almost weightless. As they pass the workshop, they greet the workers with gentle smiles. One pauses long enough to leave a small basket of ripe dates beneath the shade. For everyone, she says softly. No payment is expected. Tomorrow one of the craftsmen may help repair her family's grain basket. The next week another neighbor may share onions from the harvest. Life here moves through quiet acts of kindness. The workers gather around the dates. Each person takes only one or two. The fruit is sweet. Its soft flesh carries the warmth of the afternoon. The pits are placed carefully aside. Nothing is scattered carelessly upon the ground. Even after the short pause, no one feels hurried to return to work. The baskets will be finished. The reeds will be sorted. There is enough time. There has always been enough time when hands move steadily. A little farther along the marsh, an old fisherman untangles a length of rope beside his boat. The rope has become twisted after many days upon the river. Instead of pulling impatiently, he loosens each knot one by one. His grandson kneels beside him. The boy watches carefully. Every now and then the old man lets him try. Sometimes the boy succeeds. Sometimes he does not. Neither seems troubled. Learning is expected to take time. The reed sorter smiles as he notices them. So much of life here passes from older hands to younger ones. Not through writing. Not through grand ceremonies. Simply by working together beneath the same sun. The afternoon light grows richer. Golden reflections spread farther across the Nile. The palms cast longer shadows across the dusty paths. Goats begin wandering slowly back toward their shelters. Some children finish gathering firewood. Others help sweep the courtyards before evening. The village seems to breathe a little more slowly now. The busiest hours are gently slipping away. Inside one workshop, a completed basket is lifted onto a wooden shelf. It joins many others waiting for tomorrow's market. Large baskets. Small baskets. Deep baskets. Shallow trays. Each one slightly different. Each one woven from reeds that once stood quietly beside the river. The reed sorter looks at them with quiet satisfaction. He rarely thinks of himself as a craftsman. Yet without his careful work, these shelves would look very different. Strong baskets begin long before the weaving starts. They begin here. Among the bundles. Beside the marsh. With patient eyes and steady hands. A swallow circles overhead. Its wings cut silently through the warm air. It catches tiny insects before disappearing toward the river. The breeze carries the smell of baking bread once again. Evening meals are beginning to be prepared. Smoke rises in thin blue lines above the village. Somewhere nearby, Grain is being ground between heavy stones. The steady scraping blends with the whisper of the reeds. The sounds seem to belong together. The reed sorter ties another finished bundle. He places it beside the others beneath the shelter. The stack has grown taller than it was this morning. Quiet work leaves quiet results. There is no sudden change. Only slow progress, almost too gentle to notice until the day is nearly done. He brushes the fine reed fibers from his hands. Tiny strands drift away on the breeze. Then he reaches for one more waiting bundle, opening it with the same patient care as every bundle before it, while the afternoon continues its peaceful walk toward evening beside the calm and ever-faithful waters of the Nile. The afternoon continues to soften, almost as though the day itself has grown tired from the long hours of sunlight. The warmth remains upon the earth, yet it is no longer the strong heat that pressed down at midday. The breeze from the Nile lingers a little longer now. It slips quietly through the marsh, stirring the reeds until they sway together in slow waves that travel farther than the eye can follow. The reed sorter watches the movement for a moment. He has always liked this hour. Morning carries the promise of work. Midday asks for endurance. But late afternoon brings a quiet gentleness. The hardest part of the day has passed. There is still work to do, yet no one feels hurried. The village itself seems to breathe more slowly. He kneels beside another bundle. The woven mat beneath him has become smooth after many years of use. Its edges are slightly worn. A few strands have been repaired where they once loosened. The repairs are easy to see if someone looks closely. The sorter often thinks the mat tells its own quiet story. Each repair marks another season. Another year of ordinary days. Another harvest. Another flood. Another long summer beneath the Egyptian sun. He unties the bundle. The reeds spread before him with their familiar whisper. Some are almost perfectly straight. Others lean gently to one side. He lifts the first. The afternoon light shines through the thin outer skin, revealing faint lines that run from one end to the other. He bends it carefully. Strong. Into the first pile. Another stem. A little thinner. Suitable for smaller weaving. Into another pile. Again. And again. His breathing settles into the rhythm of the work. Slow. Even. Comfortable. Nearby, one of the older basket makers sits quietly beside a finished basket. He is not weaving. He is simply running his fingertips along the rim, feeling for places where one strand may stand slightly higher than the others. He closes his eyes for a moment. His hands notice what his eyes sometimes miss. When he finds a tiny uneven place, he presses gently with his thumb. The rim becomes smooth once more. Satisfied, he places the basket upon a shelf. It joins many others waiting patiently for tomorrow. The shelves are beginning to fill. Each basket carries its own quiet pattern. None are exactly alike. Some are taller. Some are wider. Some have darker reeds woven among lighter ones. The differences are small. They give each basket its own gentle character. The reed sorter enjoys seeing them together. They remind him of the reeds themselves. Each stem unique. Together forming something useful. A little farther away, an elderly woman sits outside her home with a shallow basket resting in her lap. She is sorting lentils for the evening meal. Tiny stones are removed one by one. Broken pieces are set aside. The good lentils fall softly into another basket. Her hands move with calm certainty. She has repeated this task thousands of times. A granddaughter sits beside her. The little girl tries to help. Sometimes she chooses correctly. Sometimes she mistakes a small pebble for a lentil. The grandmother quietly moves it aside. No criticism. Only another chance to learn. The child watches more carefully. Soon her fingers begin finding the right pieces. The reed sorter smiles. Sorting is not so different, no matter what fills the hands. Reeds. Seeds. Beans. Herbs. Each asks only for patience. Across the village, a potter opens the entrance to his kiln. Warm air flows outward carrying the smell of baked clay. One by one he lifts newly fired jars into the sunlight. Some are large enough to hold grain. Others are small enough for oil or honey. He taps each gently with a fingertip. The clear sound tells him the clay has hardened well. He places the finished jars carefully upon wooden boards to cool. Nearby, 2 donkeys wait beneath a tree. Their ears flick lazily at flies. They seem content simply to stand in the shade. Their burdens have already been delivered for the day. Soon they too will return home. The reed sorter reaches for another reed. This one bears a slight mark where a bird must once have brushed against it while building a nest. The mark is shallow. The stem remains strong. He wonders briefly how many birds have nested among these marshes over the years. Each spring the reeds become busy with new life. Tiny nests hidden deep within the green stems. Soft feathers. Small eggs. Hungry chicks waiting quietly beneath the shelter of the tall plants. The marsh provides for many lives. Not only people. The thought pleases him. The river gives generously. The afternoon grows quieter. Many of the louder sounds from the village have faded. The grinding stones slow. The hammering from the carpenter's shelter comes only now and then. Even the goats have found places to rest until evening. The calm seems to spread everywhere. Only the whisper of weaving continues steadily from the workshops. Reed crossing reed. Fiber tightening around fiber. A gentle rhythm that has filled these buildings for generations. The sorter imagines how many hands have worked here before his own. Men and women whose names are now forgotten. They too sorted reeds. They too watched the Nile flowing past. They too returned home each evening with tired shoulders and peaceful minds. Perhaps they sat beneath the same palm trees. Perhaps they drank from clay jars shaped by the same families of potters. Perhaps they listened to the same birds greeting the sunrise. Time changes many things. Yet ordinary work often remains the same. The thought feels comforting. A merchant arrives with an empty cart. Its wooden wheels creak softly over the dusty ground. The ox pulling it walks patiently. The merchant greets the basket makers one by one. He begins loading finished baskets onto the cart. Each is placed carefully. Large ones first. Smaller baskets tucked gently inside them. Nothing is forced. Nothing is stacked carelessly. The baskets deserve careful handling after so many hours of work. The reed sorter watches the cart slowly fill. Soon those baskets will travel along roads he seldom walks. They will reach villages where children wait for fresh bread. Farmers prepare for harvest. Fishermen unload their catch. Households store grain for the coming months. The baskets will quietly become part of lives the makers will never know. There is something peaceful in that. Useful work often travels farther than the worker. The merchant finishes loading. He thanks the craftsman with a warm smile. The ox leans gently into the harness. The cart begins rolling away. Its wheels leave faint tracks in the dust. The baskets sway only slightly as they disappear down the road lined with palms. For a long moment the sorter watches until the cart becomes only a small shape against the bright earth. Then he turns back. More bundles remain. Tomorrow we'll need baskets too. The sun has moved lower now. Its light falls across the marsh at a gentle angle, making each reed cast a long, delicate shadow upon the ground. The colors become richer. Greens deepen. The river takes on hints of gold. Even the mud brick walls seem warmer beneath the afternoon glow. The breeze carries the scent of fresh bread once again. Somewhere nearby onions are roasting over small cooking fires. The smell mingles with herbs and smoke. Soon families throughout the village will gather for the evening meal. Children will return from their small chores. Fishermen will pull their boats ashore. Farmers will wash the dust from their hands. But for now, the reed sorter remains where he has spent most of the day. His work is not quite finished. He unties another bundle. The familiar rustle rises into the warm air. His fingers begin their quiet rhythm once again. Lift. Turn. Feel. Choose. Place. Repeat. Each movement is calm. Each decision is gentle. And while the reeds whisper softly beside the timeless Nile, another peaceful hour slips quietly into the long memory of the ancient world. The sun drifts lower, and the light across the marsh becomes softer than before. The reeds no longer shine with the bright glare of midday. Instead they glow with a warm, gentle gold that seems to linger upon every stem. The breeze from the river grows steadier, carrying coolness that was hidden during the hottest hours of the day. The reed sorter feels it first on his neck and forearms. The change is small. Still, after many hours of work, it feels pleasant. He straightens his back slowly and looks across the water. The Nile reflects the lowering sun in long ribbons of light. A few fishing boats are already turning toward shore. Their silhouettes move quietly against the shining river. Soon the evening meal will begin in homes throughout the village. But there is still a little work left to do. He kneels again beside the remaining bundles. The woven mat beneath him is scattered with tiny reed fibers that catch the sunlight like pale threads. He brushes some aside with the back of his hand. A single reed lies apart from the others. He picks it up. It is unusually smooth, with almost no marks upon its surface. For a moment he simply turns it in the light. Then he places it with the finest weaving reeds. Some basket maker will be pleased to find it. Nearby, the youngest apprentice has finished sweeping and now sits watching an older craftsman repair a basket handle. The basket has carried heavy loads for many seasons. The old handle has become thin and rough from constant use. The craftsman loosens it carefully, never damaging the surrounding weave. Then he threads a fresh bundle of softened reeds through the old openings. The new handle is thicker, stronger. When he finishes, he pulls gently on both sides to test it. The basket holds firm. The apprentice smiles. "It is like new," he says. The old man shakes his head kindly. "No. It is older. But it can still work." The apprentice thinks about that for a moment. The reed sorter hears the words and smiles quietly to himself. Older, but still able to work. That feels familiar. A flock of small birds rises suddenly from the reeds, circles once above the marsh, and settles again farther away. Their wings make a brief, soft rush of sound. Then calm returns. The village beyond the marsh has begun to change its rhythm. Children carrying water jars walk home in small groups. Goats are guided toward their shelters. Smoke rises from more cooking fires now, thin blue lines drifting upward into the evening air. The smell of bread grows stronger. So does the smell of onions and lentils cooking slowly in clay pots. The sorter can almost imagine the meals waiting in the houses nearby. Warm bread torn into pieces. Lentils seasoned with herbs. A few dates. Perhaps fish if the river has been generous. Simple food. Familiar food. The kind that tastes best after a long day of work. He ties another finished bundle. The stack beneath the shelter has grown tall. Tomorrow the basket makers will use many of these reeds. Next week most will have become baskets. By the next flood season, they may be carrying grain from the fields. The thought gives him quiet satisfaction. His work disappears into other people's lives. That has never troubled him. Not all useful things need to be remembered by name. The breeze moves through the marsh again. This time it is cooler. The reeds bend together in long, graceful waves. The sound spreads outward across the wetlands. The sorter pauses to listen. He has heard this whisper since childhood. Some evenings it seems almost like distant voices. Not words. Only a soft murmur carried by the wind. As the light continues to fade, the colors of the world deepen. The river becomes darker blue. The reeds turn rich green and bronze. The mud brick walls of the village glow warmly in the low sun. Even the dust upon the road seems softer. A fisherman passes carrying a woven basket filled with his catch. Silver fish glimmer between damp reeds lining the bottom. He nods to the workers as he walks by. The basket swings gently from his hand. Another reminder of how many lives touch this quiet craft. Fish. Grain. Bread. Herbs. Tools. Linen. Almost everything travels for at least a little while inside woven reeds. The sorter watches the fisherman disappear toward the village. Then he reaches for the last bundle of the day. The cord comes loose easily. The reeds slide into his hands. He sorts them slowly, without hurry. Straight. Curved. Strong. Fine. One pile after another. The movements are as familiar as breathing. When the final stem finds its place, he sits back and looks at the completed stacks. The day's work is done. No celebration follows. No announcement. Only the quiet sight of neatly arranged bundles waiting for tomorrow. He brushes the dust from his knees and stands. His shoulders are tired. His hands are rough. Yet his mind feels calm. Around him, the workshops begin to close for the evening. Tools are set aside. Partly woven baskets are covered with cloth. Clay jars are sealed. Workers stretch tired backs and prepare to walk home. The reed sorter takes one last look across the marsh. The setting sun rests low above the horizon now, painting the water with soft gold and copper. Birds fly toward their evening resting places. The river keeps moving, steady and untroubled. Tomorrow before dawn he will return here. The reeds will still be waiting. The marsh will still whisper in the breeze. The Nile will still flow through the ancient land. And another peaceful day of sorting reeds for basket making will begin again beneath the quiet Egyptian sky. The last light of the afternoon lingers gently above the Nile, reluctant to leave the quiet valley. The sun hangs low now, no longer bright enough to make the eyes narrow. Instead, it spreads a warm amber glow across the marshes, the fields, and the roofs of the village. Every mud brick wall seems to hold the color for a little while, as though the earth itself is remembering the day's warmth before the coolness of night arrives. The reed sorter stands beside the bundles he has prepared. He does not leave immediately. For a few peaceful moments, he simply looks over the work. The stacks are neat. Each bundle rests where it belongs beneath the shelter. The thicker reeds are together. The slender weaving reeds are tied separately. The shorter pieces have been gathered for repairs and smaller baskets. Everything has its place. He has always believed that ending the day carefully makes the next morning feel lighter. He kneels once more. One bundle is tied a little more tightly than the others. He loosens the cord just enough to allow a little air between the reeds. They will dry more evenly through the night. It is a small adjustment. Perhaps no one else would have noticed. He notices. That is enough. A basket maker steps from the workshop carrying a shallow woven tray. Inside are tiny pieces of reed trimmed away during the day's work. He empties them into a separate pile beneath the shelter. Tomorrow, some of those little pieces will help repair old baskets. Others may be twisted into small ties. Even the shortest fibers may still find another purpose. The reed sorter smiles. Nothing here lives only one life. A reed begins beside the river. It becomes part of a basket. Years later, part of that basket may help mend another. The usefulness simply changes shape. The breeze grows cooler. It carries the smell of wet mud from the riverbank where the day's warmth has begun to fade. Mixed with it comes the scent of smoke from cooking fires. The village has fully entered its evening rhythm. The sound of grinding stones has almost disappeared. Instead, soft voices drift from open doorways. Families call children home. Dogs wander slowly between the houses before settling beside familiar entrances. A donkey gives a low, sleepy bray somewhere beyond the date palms. The sound echoes gently across the quiet fields before fading away. The reed sorter lifts his empty carrying rope. It has served him faithfully for many years. The fibers have become smooth from countless bundles resting across his shoulder. Near one end is a careful repair tied long ago after a strand had begun to fray. The repair has lasted so long that he rarely thinks about it anymore. He coils the rope carefully. Tomorrow it will carry fresh reeds once again. Nothing asks for more than simple care. He begins walking toward the village. His sandals press softly into the dusty path. The ground still holds a little warmth gathered during the day. Along the edge of the marsh, frogs have begun calling to one another. Their voices are steady and unhurried. They rise together, then fall into silence before beginning again. The evening chorus feels as old as the river itself. A pair of young brothers passes carrying small bundles of firewood. The wood is tied with thin strips of dried reed. One of the boys smiles as he recognizes the sorter. "Will you be back tomorrow?" he asks. The reed sorter chuckles softly. "If the river is still here." The boys laugh. One looks toward the wide Nile, flowing quietly beyond the reeds. "I think it will be." "So do I," the sorter replies. The brothers continue home, their bundles bouncing gently with each step. Simple conversations linger in the heart longer than grand speeches. The sorter continues along the path. The marsh slowly gives way to cultivated fields. Rows of vegetables rest quietly in the fading light. A farmer kneels beside a narrow irrigation channel. He uses a small wooden tool to clear away mud that has gathered during the day. The water begins flowing smoothly once more. He watches it for a moment with quiet satisfaction before standing. Tomorrow morning the plants will drink from the little channel again. Nearby, an elderly woman gathers herbs from a small garden beside her house. She chooses each leaf carefully. Not too young. Not too old. She places them gently into a shallow basket hanging from her arm. The basket is worn smooth from years of use. Its handle has been repaired more than once. The fresh herbs fill the evening air with a gentle fragrance. Mint. coriander. A little dill. The scents mingle with the smoke drifting from nearby ovens. The reed sorter inhales slowly. These smells belong to home. As he enters the village, more families have gathered outside their houses. The heat inside the mud brick room still lingers, so many people spend the final hours of daylight in open courtyards. Some sit upon woven mats. Others rest on low wooden stools polished smooth by generations of use. Children play quietly with little figures shaped from clay. A grandmother tells a gentle story while slowly spinning flax into thread. No one seems eager to rush indoors. The evening is too pleasant. A baker removes the last loaves from his oven. The warm bread is stacked inside wide baskets lined with clean linen cloth. Steam rises softly. The smell drifts down the street. Several neighbors pause to exchange a few quiet words before continuing home. The village has become calmer with every passing moment. The day's labor is slowly settling into memory. The reed sorter reaches his own doorway. Before stepping inside, he brushes a little dust from his sandals. It is a habit learned long ago. Inside, the room feels cool compared to the fading warmth outdoors. His wife is arranging bowls for the evening meal. The youngest child sits nearby, carefully weaving strips of dry grass together. The weaving is uneven. Several pieces have slipped loose. The child frowns with deep concentration. The reed sorter kneels beside them. Without taking over, he gently shows how one strip passes over another, then beneath the next. The child's small fingers copy the movement. This time the little weaving holds. A quiet smile appears. There, the sorter says softly. It only needed patience. The child studies the tiny woven piece with great pride. Perhaps years from now those same hands will sort reeds beside the river. Perhaps they will choose another path entirely. For now, they are simply learning how patient hands can shape simple things. The evening meal is shared slowly. Warm bread. Lentils cooked until soft. Fresh herbs gathered only a short while ago. A few cucumbers cooled in a clay bowl of water. Dates placed in the center for everyone to enjoy. The family eats without hurry. Conversation comes gently. One child speaks about seeing a kingfisher dive into the river. Another describes helping gather onions. His wife mentions that a neighbor's basket will soon need a new handle. The sorter nods. He already knows which reeds would be best for such a repair. Outside, the last sunlight slips below the western horizon. The sky changes from gold to deep orange. Then to violet. The first evening star appears above the eastern desert. One by one, more stars quietly join it. The village grows quieter. Cooking fires burn lower. Oil lamps begin glowing inside open doorways. Their soft light spills gently across the packed earth. The reed sorter steps outside once more before sleep. The air has become wonderfully cool. He walks only a short distance toward the edge of the village. From there he can still see the dark line of reeds standing beside the moonlit river. Tomorrow they will greet the sunrise again. Tomorrow fresh bundles will be cut. Tomorrow careful hands will sort them one by one. There is comfort in knowing what tomorrow will bring. Not because every day is exactly the same, but because every ordinary day offers another chance to do simple work with quiet care. He stands for a little while longer, listening to the reeds whisper beneath the evening breeze, the frogs singing beside the marsh, and the timeless Nile flowing patiently through the ancient darkness, carrying another peaceful day gently into the embrace of night. Now the village has grown completely quiet. The last cooking fires have settled into glowing embers, their soft orange light fading beneath a sky filled with countless stars. The narrow paths between the mud brick homes are still. Sandals have been placed beside doorways. Clay jars rest where they will be easy to reach before dawn. The day's work has gently slipped into memory. The reed sorter lies upon his woven mat. His hands, rough from years of careful work, are finally still. Tomorrow they will once again separate long reeds from short, strong stems from gentle ones, just as they have through so many peaceful seasons. But tonight there is nothing left to sort. Nothing left to carry. Nothing left to mend. Only quiet. Outside, the Nile continues its endless journey. The river asks for no applause. It keeps flowing beneath the moon, past sleeping villages, silent marshes, and fields resting after another day beneath the Egyptian sun. Along its banks, the tall reeds sway gently in the cool night breeze, whispering the same soft song they have whispered for generations beyond counting. A fisherman has pulled his small boat onto the shore. A basket rests beside it, empty now after providing another family's evening meal. In a nearby workshop, unfinished baskets wait patiently for morning. Half-woven patterns rest exactly where careful hands left them. The reeds are covered with linen to keep them ready for another day of quiet craftsmanship. Nothing feels unfinished. Nothing feels hurried. Everything simply waits. Across the village, families sleep peacefully. Children dream beneath light linen coverings. Parents rest after long hours in the fields, on the river, or inside shaded workshops. An old potter sleeps knowing tomorrow's clay is already prepared. A baker rests while tomorrow's grain waits quietly in woven baskets. A fisherman sleeps with his nets drying beside the water. A basket maker closes tired eyes, knowing that patient hands will continue their gentle weaving when the sun returns. Above them all, the stars shine with calm and steady light. The same stars watched over countless ordinary evenings just like this one. They watched farmers returning home with dusty sandals. They watched bread cooling on woven trays. They watched quiet conversations shared beside small oil lamps. They watched reeds growing silently beside the river until careful hands gathered them, one by one, to become something useful. History often remembers great rulers, towering monuments, and mighty temples. Yet most lives were lived far from palace walls. They unfolded beside humble homes, shaded workshops, quiet gardens, and the timeless waters of the Nile. They were lives filled with patient work, shared meals, familiar paths, and gentle evenings such as this. Those ordinary days became the true heartbeat of the ancient world. One basket carried grain. Another carried bread. Another held fresh herbs gathered before sunset. Simple objects, shaped by quiet hands, helped countless families greet each new morning. The names of those hands have faded with time. The river has remembered their footsteps. The reeds have remembered their touch. The earth has quietly held their stories. And perhaps, in the peaceful rhythm of their ordinary days, we can still feel something familiar. The comfort of honest work. The kindness of simple routines. The warmth of returning home as evening settles across the land. The gentle certainty that tomorrow will arrive with another sunrise over the Nile. Now even the breeze begins to grow softer. The reeds barely move. The frogs sing more quietly from the marsh. The water glides through the darkness without effort. The oil lamps burn lower. One by one, they fade. The village rests. The river flows. The stars keep their silent watch. And somewhere beside the moonlit marsh, where the reeds stand patiently along the quiet water, the ancient night holds the world in perfect stillness, inviting every tired soul to rest, to dream, and to drift as peacefully as the gentle current of the Nile beneath the endless sky.